Let's rock and roll. A word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes, as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us. This week, that would be through Chapter 35 of Fonda Lee's Jade Legacy. Hey there, this is Cross.
And I'm very no nonsense, super serious. We're getting straight to it, PJ.
I'm less serious, but still getting to business, Ben.
I'm just here for the fun, Aaron.
And I'm regular old Thomas.
And we are Words and Whiskey on a small time crunch. It's fine. A podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club.
Good thing basically nothing happened this week in the book, so we like don't have anything to talk about, and it'll go
Pretty
really
chill.
fast. Yeah.
One of the chapters didn't give me a headache trying to summarize just that single chapter, so we will be good.
Yeah, same.
I was
There
thinking
were
about
two
that.
of those
There's one that
chapters
was
this
so
week.
long.
I was like,
Yeah.
bitch, what are you doing? This is 4 chapters.
In audiobook form, there are 2 55-minute chapters, which in
Wow.
page form, it's like 100 pages. Like, this is technically, I think, the longest section, despite being such a low chapter count for what we're
Yeah.
covering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There were some long chapters in there. For sure.
Some kids being dumb.
Classic. So today is our 5th episode. We'll be talking about chapters 29 through 35. But before we get too much further, we've got cocktails. We've got drinks to talk about. PJ, you want to start? And Aaron?
I haven't.
We're the Negroni sisters.
We are the Negroni sisters once again.
Sorry, Cross. We boxed you out.
Yeah, I wasn't informed of this. I've been left. But
It's like a meet cute because I didn't know PJ was drinking a Negroni.
Mm-hmm. I don't
I
have
was just like,
any sugar,
I'm craving it.
like any syrups made up right now.
Do you have sweet vermouth?
I actually used Lillet Blanc for this. So
that'll do.
it'll be fine. But I mean,
Nice.
my options for drinks are a lot more limited with like no syrups made up. So an all spirit cocktail was the way to go.
Hell yeah, brother. What about
Hell
you,
yeah.
Cross?
I am having the leftover bottle of wine that was partially used to make the dinner that I had. So it's an
Yum.
Apothic Inferno, which is aged in whiskey barrels for 60 days. It is not very good. The reason that I'm okay with giving the free ad is because I do not recommend it to an average consumer. However,
Got him.
got him. For me, right now, it's fine. It'll do. How about you, Ben?
What'd you cook with it, though?
Made some French onion sandwiches. So some French onion dip sandwiches.
Yum.
Send them
That
here.
sounds lovely.
Send them my way.
Very good. It was like 8 pounds of stuff because they don't mess around in Texas. Apparently,
We have the beef.
we have so much beef. There's too much beef. I will mail it to you in an envelope.
Yeah, I think in Texas you're legally required to like cook a full half cattle every time
Cow.
you make anything, right?
Yep.
And you got to use it all.
Mm-hmm.
You should see what we did with the udders. I'm not proud.
Jesus.
All right, Thomas, what's our featured cocktail tonight?
Well, our featured cocktail is a Mexican Jack and Coke. And I'm calling it that because I found a Mexican whiskey, which shall remain nameless because they're not paying me. It's good.
What do we think
It's
it
very
is? Corona?
smooth. No, it's a whiskey, Aaron.
That's a beer. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he said beer.
100% ancestral corn. Super cool. And I got a Mexican Coke, so I put, an amount, probably a little more than I should have, of the whiskey into a glass with a lot of ice in it. And then it's a tall glass, filled it probably like a quarter of the way up. Fuck ton of lime juice, Mexican Coke, open it up, poured it in.
And did
little
you
twirl.
rhyme? Did you line the rim with Mexican
No, I
Coke?
should have done I was going to say tahine, but yeah, we could have done some Mexican whites, I guess.
Wow.
Cocaine.
But this is
Cocaine
delicious.
is what
Yep.
you're-
I was talking about cocaine.
Yeah, me too. It's really good. There's like a weird. The whiskey itself didn't taste smoky, but like the combination, there's like a weird smokiness to it now. It's nice.
Ooh.
Lovely.
Nice.
And you mentioned tahine. I fucking love tahine.
Me too.
Really?
I'll just straight lick the whole glass.
That was a free ad,
Nice
but
to me.
I got caught off guard.
Tahine. Ben, you're last, but
Yep.
not
What do you
your
got?
best for last.
I am drinking a Boulevard Brewing Company Space Camper IPA.
And there's a cool robot on the front.
It's an astronaut.
Whoa.
Oh, it's an astronaut.
And it's a lovely little IPA beer. I would highly recommend. I'm not usually a big fan of IPAs,
It's
but
like a smooth IPA.
this one's pretty smooth and it's a good drinker.
Nice.
Awesome.
We love our Boulevard here in Kansas City. That is
Yeah, I was
a
gonna
free
say-
ad.
When I'm there, we'll have to go. So,
Oh, yeah.
because we'll have a couple days. It'll be fun.
They have is it shuffleboard, but the big one?
Oh yeah,
With,
they got
like,
all kinds
sticks?
of stuff.
Like a standing up shuffleboard.
hmm
Whatever that's
Ooh.
called.
Fun.
I
All
guess you
right.
stand up when you do the other one. Okay.
I see. You stand it up when. Yeah, you're right. I understand. So, before we talk about the chapters, newbies, how do we feel about this week? How do we feel about maybe first and foremost, the next time jump? What do we think? How do
I
we
was
feel?
ready for this one. I
You
was
were?
I was looking for it.
Oh, I was like, not. I was like, what the fuck?
I was like, haha, I caught you.
Just like saying you were following along with the book.
No, I was like looking for the time jump
And you're like-
specifically.
Yeah. Okay. But how did you actually feel about it?
I always feel rage.
I was pretty upset about this one.
Is
I
that
would
in
say.
general
I had
or
a
while
bone
reading?
to pick.
With the time jumps in particular, I'm like, oh, okay.
I
Maybe we need, 6 books instead of giant time jumps.
I remember after like the second or third time jump, I texted Cross and I was like, "This better be the last fucking time jump." And then the next chapter there was one, and I was like, "Son of a bitch!"
I definitely understand, and we've gotten a couple of that from other first time readers that have came along in either the DMs or in the Discord that are just like, Jesus Christ, so many time jumps. But I think at the same time, like you were saying, Aaron, 6 books, yeah, but is there more to go there? And I feel like that's kind of the thing for me that I appreciate about this, is that it's like, let's not waste time diving into each of these things. Let's let it play and see what the long-term effects are, which is so different than most fantasy novels that would drag you through a 10-book series of a man's depression that is published over 20 years. And, I don't know.
But we're here for that.
And I
Well,
think she's trying to
sometimes.
like this family saga, and so
Mhm.
drawing it out, bringing
Yeah.
children into it makes
I will say the children help me understand the time jumps because of them aging.
yeah.
Mhm.
It would have been harder without kids.
It felt
I do have to go back and check like what time we are at sometimes.
Yeah.
as a sort of contemporary comparison, it felt very much like House of the Dragon in the way that it's set up, where we've got the sort of shorter time scale of Game of Thrones relatively, and then like we're seeing the whole life of this family grow up and getting the full context of it through these jumps in time. I think it works well. I similarly kind of wish we got to sink in a little bit more, but it's already such a long book, and maybe a lot of that story isn't that important, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So I'm cool with it.
The other thing that I think too is it's not even necessarily that it's not like it couldn't be compelling or interesting to write something within that space, or like she couldn't, create a story that's in that space. But there's the other side of, could she have sold a 4th book? Could she have sold a 5th book in this series? And the reality of just marketing novels, right? Especially for not a brand new author at this point, but someone who's breaking out as an adult author. Could she have sold more than a 3-book series right away? I think the answer in post of the success of this book as a closer, as a clincher, is yes. But, you don't know that until you prove it. So.
Mm-hmm.
I also
Boring.
with this jump, like I'm really interested in Aitmata personally, and I would have liked to have seen like her recovery and how she like comes back and how she reappears and then what happens, but we like miss all of that and she's just like back.
It's yada yada. Yeah, that was the most frustrating part to me. It's like it seemed like we had this giant event, and then I was like, oh, okay, so now we're halfway through the book. Like this is going to start moving,
narrowing in, or
it's
something.
like
Yeah.
narrowing in towards a conclusion, and instead it feels like we spread out
Yeah.
and have like new people we're meeting.
When we were meeting new people, I was like, okay, there's enough people, and then they brought in
Trying to make Nico happen. I don't care about Nico. Like,
yeah, fuck that guy.
Oh
just
no!
like-
I knew this was going to happen. I even wrote it in my notes.
that's where I'm at. I'm just like,
Yeah, I want to get more when.
like Shay has become like a complete side character. Like she's like hardly involved in the story anymore.
Yeah, now we're into like Andon and Nico.
Yeah. I don't know.
But maybe it's just this group of chapters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more from the fallout of the bombing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
She
was like, we saved your life. Skip.
We didn't see like what actually happened after that. And so it's like hard. It just seems like now it's kind of like shortly after that, but it's also 5 years later.
Yeah.
That seemed like it's this giant event. And so with the time jump, it kind of took some of the impact of that event away for me, where I'm like, okay, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be. And some of that is just our format. We're talking about it. So I'm trying to make like predictions and like think about stuff that way. And so like some of that is just like, you know, what my expectations were just because I'm thinking about it in a way that I have expectations. If I was just reading the book, just reading it straight through, I probably wouldn't have that same.
Yeah. Basically, Cross and Thomas, it's all your fault.
It's actually just Cross's fault. I joined.
Yeah. I just recruited him for this side of the thing. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I definitely understand that. And I do empathize with it a little bit. But there are reasons and rationales that we've done what we've done, and we'll get there. This is actually the only set of chapters that I made a last minute adjustment to 2 weeks ago to shrink out one chapter because I decided it was too long with 36. So, yeah. But I'm very excited to talk about these. So let's get into it. How about that?
Let's do it.
Let's do.
With that, we go into chapter 29, Rude Awakening. We open this week in the hospital with Hami and Hilo, both beginning to heal from their wounds inflicted by the bombing of last week's reading. Both are hurt, but had managed to survive due to a combination of the Espenian forewarning and Hilo with some training from Jin Sunto. While Woon and Shay share a heartfelt moment over Tia and his survival, Hilo rages over Shay's decision to save Ait after the CFM, the Clanless Freedom Movement, Clanless Future Movement, the Clanless Future Movement's assassination attempt. After, we see Malovny begin to be probed by our pair of Espenian agents. So this is sort of the come down from last week's, end of the fact that we know that they lived. It's nice, of course, to see Woon and, with his daughter and just sort of this moment of peace and, basically leaning into the idea of being a stay-at-home dad in the future and retiring from this role potentially. I just love Woon Poppy.
Poppy.
Yeah.
Poppy's great.
I loved
He's a great Poppy.
That's true. I liked his. I mean, we were spoon-fed it a little bit, but I loved his positive reaction to his daughter being a not fussy, like not crying child. That
Yeah,
felt
like we
good.
don't need another warrior in the family.
Yes.
I really liked, moving on from Poppy, but I thought it was really cool that Hilo wasn't more hurt because of his training with Jim Sunto.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, see? They did get something out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, the deflection works in a different way. And that description of, like, how you're not just picking up part of the body, but you're, like, shoring it up and then pushing it all out.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, protecting the internal organs, because generally that's what would burst in those moments of something intense like that. Very cool.
Yeah, I like the mechanics, unsurprisingly.
We're shocked. So there's Shay and Hilo's conversation with Juan about saving Ait, and man, I gotta give it to our audiobook narrator here. He absolutely destroys it with just the italics in the text. Like if you're reading the text, it's just italicized to give it that influence. But there is a venom dripping from the voice actor in this moment, and it is palpable as to how actually angry Hilo is in this moment.
Facts.
I, again, from Hilo, want to see a little more empathy and like see it from Shay's perspective. She thought you were dead. She thought everyone was dead. And it was very logical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I think it's fine for Hilo to be upset, obviously. I mean, Shay's also upset that she like had to save her. But
yep,
in the moment too, it would have been so ridiculous for her to kill Aitmata.
Yeah, I thought it was perfectly on brand for Hilo. I don't expect him
Just
to.
like all you had to do was walk away, which we kind of said that too.
I almost
I
couldn't
don't expect
tell
him to-
whose side Juen was on, because Shay mentions that without either of the pillars, the country would be plunged into chaos, and his response to that was, "It kind of already is anyway." But it's said in a way that it could either be like, it's already getting super close to that and we didn't want to make it worse, or it's already going that way. What's a little bit more? Like, I couldn't quite parse which direction he was leaning on that. Does that make sense?
I would say he probably has like some feelings of empathy around the situation because he was in the same situation that Shay was, where they were both desperately searching, thinking that Hilo was dead. So like he understands her mindset,
Yeah.
but he also
And how dire it was.
yeah, also understands Hilo's mindset as well, just I think as being on the greener side of the clan or whatever, and like why. And he's like very analytical, right? So, you know, he feels like someone who can see both sides and kind of would sit the fence a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe would present his statement in a way that would satisfy both the weatherman and the pillar.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
more like he's intentionally playing that side of the road, and the side of like, well, I never doubted that the pillar was going to live, but at the same time, I can hold those ideas simultaneously.
Right.
It's a really powerful moment, and obviously this book has, as we've seen, and with the time jumps that we've already talked a little bit about, it's very clear that this book has a focus on legacy and sort of the longevity of things. And I can't help in this moment just see the smallest mirror of the torch of Kakon in the way that he sort of goes off on these rages, and he's more like his grandpa than he wants to be.
Yes, that's very true. I think Hilo would yell at you if he heard you say that.
Probably. he would hate that comparison, as we would all hate to be compared to our parents immediately, you know.
Or
I mean, maybe,
angry,
I guess, unless
senile
you have good parents.
grandpas.
Yeah, right.
Disagree. Called
with
Sennington's came out of hate and vitriol,
Yeah.
and Hilo's for the most part come out of love and just an inability to express himself in a healthy way.
No, I definitely agree. For the record, I definitely agree with that sentiment, but that doesn't change the fact that can still be a grating reaction regardless of where it comes from.
Right. I just meant like let's have
Yeah.
some nuance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally love that level of nuance. I'm in. From Juen, we also get an interesting little dose of perspective on General Ronu's efforts as the military has intervened to help in this moment, and that all of that discussion in Jade War and that negotiation over where the Jade went and where the effort went isn't wasted, as the military is actually quasi-effective for the first time in history. Again, raising that question of, do we need the green bones?
Yeah.
Becoming a bigger and bigger question, isn't it?
And in the next few chapters, what's the like threesome of it's the military, the mountain, and the no peak?
Yeah.
Oh, the three ring action? Yeah.
I think threesome works.
The threesomes. Yep. All those threesomes they have.
But I think as we modernize the clans, they do have to be less mobstery, killing whoever they want, and we'll start working more and more with the military and the police. And I think it'll, like you said, are the clans outdated? Like, I think the more and more they work with the law enforcement, then they'll make themselves more obsolete. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that gets into as well sort of the way that Jwen trusts implicitly Abensorro to be not necessarily on their side, but at the very least a good and honorable Greenbone, following the laws of Aisho, and not in Ite's pocket, but willing to help, unlike a lot of the other previous horns. And so basically, obviously, like you'd mentioned, that sets up the three-ring actions that we start to see happening and sort of a blending together of more clan action in general between the two. Do you guys trust Abensorro? Do you think? I know we got peaks of it last week, but what do you guys think now?
Yes.
Seems okay.
Yeah. I feel like we don't
Everyone's
have enough.
super timid.
I don't get bad vibes.
Yeah, I don't get now Swin vibes.
Yeah, I don't feel like we have enough interaction to really make a call yet.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm still not against just fully joining the mountain. Like
Just
me.
fully making the One Mountain Society again.
You?
Like instead of like being on the protagonist side. I
Oh,
might
you're
join
pro the mountain. Yeah.
I'm not against it.
Mm-hmm.
Even
I get that.
Sorrow, they say he likes beer, right? He likes sports. Seems like
He's
the
pretty.
guy to me.
Yeah. Guy's guy.
I like a pretty man.
Love
Who
it.
doesn't?
Love it. Anything else from the hospital?
I'm happy everyone's okay, but I just think we've learned from this in the past. I think Hilo needs to give Shay more credit for like thinking through things, very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yep.
All right. So then we move over to the final kind of cliff note of the chapter before the time skip happens. And Malovny is being interrogated by our two Espenian spies. The pair, of course, that were the handlers for Barrow, Catfish, it appears. Do you guys think Malovny is going to make it? Do you think we'll ever see any more Malovny? What do you think? What do you think's happened to this guy under Espenian hands?
Malovny.
It felt
I think
very
that
pandemonium-esque, and if anybody knows what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
Pandemonium chair.
Oh, Red Rising.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Mine
good
did it?
reference.
I think Malovny will give away some good secrets, and then they'll kill him. And
I think he's just going to be locked away in a government facility,
yeah, I don't think he'll pop up again. I don't know.
slowly being pieced apart.
I think he played his part in the bombing.
They're chemically breaking down his personality while maintaining his knowledge. So
Which is crazy.
does he survive? Physically, yeah. Mentally, I don't know if it's still him, but I don't think they kill him. I think they use him as an agent.
Pretty nasty on the Espenian side of things here, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But it's not torture. They're more sophisticated than that. They're above torture, right?
It's kind of
Specifically. Just barely.
Technically.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to our second interlude, One Mountain. So in this, our penultimate interlude of the series, second of the book, we did a little background into the origins of the Wylon Temple School, aka the Mountain Clan's training academy, and we also glimpsed Ite, Udonton's, and Tall Sennington's meet cute.
Oh.
Is it meet cute?
I think so.
Meet cute under duress.
In the woods under a bunch of rain. Yeah, right. It's some predator shit where we're forced together to be friends and,
Like, hey, clans don't matter anymore. It's just us against them.
They became BFFs, so I think it counts as a meet cute.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wylon Temple School seems pretty cool, reminiscent to me of how the Mountain Clan kept the mountain part of their title in the split between the torch and the spear later on. They keep the ancestral school, they keep part of the name in their name. No Peach has to make a new school. No Peach has to take on a whole new name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the more traditional side of things.
Mhm. Which makes sense. That's what their goal was at the time. They're
Mhm.
also, the school is located 65 kilometers outside of the city, which never realized that before. Seemed pretty
Miles?
far.
How many miles?
Wasn't that like the original school?
Yeah.
And then it burnt down
Yeah.
or something?
I don't speak
Yeah.
kilometers.
It's like 40 miles,
It's
right?
like 2.2, yeah. Something like that.
Thank you.
3 for every 5.
There you go.
I just needed someone to translate.
I just thought it was interesting because Hal Dushan Academy is like in the city and the outskirts of the city. Like, and to take
Mhm.
a
Well-
bike or take a bus batch from there to the tall estate.
I think the new Wylon school is within the city limits. This was the original one which got
I
burnt down, right?
I think the new one is located 65 kilometers. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm on the wrong book. I might be wrong. Why is this being dumb?
I'm pretty sure that either way it was kind of outside of it was out of the way comparatively, right? So neither
Yeah.
were inside of city limits, but I think that this one was burnt down as mentioned, but it was still built.
Yeah,
near
the school's
original-
current campus
original
is
hub.
65 kilometers outside.
Okay.
I thought, though, this interlude was the No Peak and Mountain working together. And then we like see in these chapters we're tentatively working together. And then, of course, Shay saving. I don't know. I feel a tentative friendship alliance.
That would have been
Maybe-
interesting to see in the 5 years that have passed since.
Maybe we don't have to murder each other all the time.
Maybe
So-
it takes longer than that, Ben. Okay.
Maybe. I mean,
Aaron,
see,
with that sort of read on it, do you think this is a reflection of what has happened in the previous chapters leading up to this interlude, or do you think it will continue and this is like a harbinger of more
Yeah, I
collaboration
was
going
seeing it
forward?
as like a projection of the future.
Okay.
Like, remember when we were friends?
Mhm.
Why can't we be friends?
now we got the next heirs, both a couple fuckboys. It's tough.
Mhm.
Well, at least one fuckboy.
Two different
One,
brands of fuckboy.
Yeah.
One depressed kid.
As
No, Nico to me, we'll get into it.
We
don't know anything about Nico. That's the thing.
Well, I think he might be on the spectrum or something. I think that's how she's writing him.
Hmm.
The way
I
he
love it.
like, she goes into him like going away to think about things. Anyways,
As we touched
Yeah.
on with the last interlude.
then the mountain fuckboy.
Yeah. We're moving firmly into history now with these interludes. We're well past mysteries. We're well past mythology is the word I was looking for, and into firm history now. Figures we know and dislike, figures we have heard about, can't really get a read on. What do you think the third interlude is going to be about?
Probably when they split the clan.
Yeah, I was going to say the breakup too.
Break
Mhm.
up.
Yeah. I think Dew, called Dew, shows up in the second or in the third interlude. Because he'll be alive by then, right?
I mean,
because he was dead
in
by
theory,
the time
yeah.
they split because the school that they founded was named after him.
I guess we'll find out in the third interlude.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Anything else on the interlude, my friends? Well, then I suppose that brings us
I'm
into chapter 30. The Bad Cat. The 19th
Thomas,
year, third month. I was going to say redacted, but I was like, we're on a time crunch. We don't have time.
Well, I was gonna say this whole chapter. I kept every time they said "keck," I was thinking of Thomas. I was like, Thomas doesn't like that word.
Say with the hard K, KK.
How would you say it with a soft K? Sec?
Cash. Cash.
What?
Keck.
Cash. It's kind of, I don't know. Something like that.
I need.
Thomas is trying to
I'm
assemble
like,
himself.
I
It's
can't
just
I'm
couldn't
just
think of
like-
that.
We get another almost 5-year time jump here as we leap from the 14th year 6th month to the 19th year 3rd month. And this time, we open with the funeral of our old friend, Dout Losinian, who passed away at 76 from heart failure. Kilo and Andy go to Espenia to pay their respects and have a run-in with John Remy, our old friend from Restville, at the funeral. It turns out Remy has been making quite the name for himself down on the coast, earning the moniker the Bad Cat for his vice and violence. The day after the funeral, Doubt, Sana, Tori, and the Espenian Greenbones meet with Hilo and Andon to discuss the future of green in the country. Most present agree to the Doubt's vision of what's to come, but Remy and a few others do not fall in line. To borrow from Binge Mode and I believe Howler Pod here, bells for Doubt Losenyan. How do we feel about his death? Anything?
I mean, lived a pretty good life. Did a pretty good job. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I think
Can't say I feel a whole lot.
yeah, his strong arming of Corey's relationships and like that's our last really big interaction with him.
Pallor on the rest.
Yeah. But at the same time, like he left a void in the Keko-Espenian community for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely not a good succession plan.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Dauk Losunyan. This funeral felt better, though, than Now Swin's. This one, there was a lot more family and, a lot more grief, probably.
Just to add
We
into
had
that,
a lot of funerals this week.
two funerals and some family abandonment.
No weddings, though.
And a baby.
No
weddings.
I kind of wish we would have gotten the entirety of Andon's speech because everybody gave him so much praise for it. And we got kind of the Cliff Notes version of it.
Then this definitely would have had to been 2 chapters. Like, there's no way you can add any more.
Yeah.
That would have been fine, though, I feel like.
I know. Just, it was mostly a joke. I did want to say of the funerals, I feel like to Ben's point, I felt more for Now Swen's death than I did for Dauk's, despite appreciating him as a person more. Like, I felt a little bit more impact of that loss.
I would agree.
Yeah. But this was cool to see, like, it really cements how ingrained Andon was into all of these families and into the Keko-Espenian group to have him speak at the most prominent man's funeral there. So,
Yeah, that was cool for Andon. And it made me look back on our Espenia time with fond memories.
I thought it was interesting that Mr. Hien was still around, still kicking. He's got to be like 90 now, at least.
I think they... I don't remember if they say his age, but yeah, he's
he
not
was
looking
deep
great.
in his 80s like 2 time jumps ago.
Has 107.
was he?
Or maybe it was
It
one
was
time.
bad.
Last time Andon was in Espenia,
Yes,
Mr.
he's like
Hien
85
was
now.
like
Can we-
in his 80s.
Can we do something here and not look it up and just mislead ourselves, mislead the listeners, and say he's 107 years old?
Yep, we're cool with that.
Cool. Hien is 107 years old.
It
Might
is.
as well be.
It's a canon.
It's that lucky teapot or whatever they have on their shelf.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Bluffer's teapot, yeah.
Complaining about his grocery store being too big in the new place.
Just like me, for real.
That's what keeps you young. Complaining.
But yeah, after the funeral before Remy shows up, or the reception actually, it's pretty wholesome. We get the Mr. Hien interaction. We did everyone coming up, paying their respects to Hilo and Andon, and Hilo trying to keep a low cover, low profile, be respectful. But really, the fact that it's held at the community center, and it just, very simple. Even though he was such a legendary figure in the whole country amongst this Chechen population and even internationally. He just has it at the community center. Everything's just kind of shoved to the side, dressed up nice. And it really was just a very good reflection of how he was such a fixture and pillar, pun intended, of the community despite that international importance. Like, he really was just a community man at the end of the day.
Yeah. I thought it was nice to go back to a place that we all knew and loved.
Also interesting because, we see Remy, absolute scumbag. We see this the next this chapter and before, obviously, as well. But just Doubt being alive kind of kept him a little bit in line, not openly disrespectful and being token respectful to the Doubts and to No Peak at the time. And now he's like, fuck off, fuck you, I'm going to do whatever I want. Totally. So I thought that was interesting. Like, it's just another example of how he really was a significant figure.
Mm-hmm. I thought Hilo's take on this was refreshingly nuanced and like well thought out. I was given the rest of this section, he didn't explode like I would have come to think
When he
would.
interacts with Remy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even
Yeah, he
afterwards,
keeps it
after
cool.
Remy leaves in talking Andon down.
Yeah, it's like a throwback to when Andon was at the academy. And he's like, you got to treat these are your future fists and fingers. You got to be more respectful to them. You got to know how to interact with people.
Yeah.
But before that, we see Tori married to a woman, got a toddler baby on the way. And we also see Kelly Doubt once again. Just sucks. Truly a rude person through and through.
But also you kind of get it, right? Like you hate to see it from our perspective and our protagonist's perspective, but you totally get it from the sort of legal right way of doing things. And I think her inclusion is so smart on Fonda's part to be like, reminder, these are bad people.
Yeah, it is interesting for sure.
Or at the very least, at
Like, if
odds
there
with
was
the
a-
Espenian government.
Yeah.
I mean, Andon, though, is like almost a
Yes.
peer to her. He's like a director of an international trade federation, essentially. And he's just like, hey, congrats on the new job. And she said, I can't fucking talk about it. Don't pry. I said, all right, bitch, damn.
Bad
Bad.
lady.
She thinks he's corrupted.
She's not nice.
I don't know. I get it.
But never mind. Last week you said you got stuck in a 2-hour conversation because you couldn't be rude. Need you to be
Yeah,
more rude.
that's true.
Anyway,
That's true.
Remy makes his appearance. Andon immediately like, fuck this guy vibes. And, every reason to. I have a list here. Remy hates Hochi. Weird. Don't like that about him. Flamboyant, like crude, asshole. Andy calls him a bore and a gangster, but puts bore first, which I thought was very funny.
Boring gangster.
No, like
That's a
BOOR.
Like a pig.
Yeah, just a brutish.
Yeah, like no sophistication.
BOAR, that's a pig.
That is, yeah. The other bore. The third one.
The other four. Yeah,
There's
a
too
third
many.
four.
BORE, BOAR. What's BOOR?
They were just
Ill
A
mannered.
brute?
They
A
were just
brute?
yeah.
Someone like
English
new
is
rich,
stupid.
kind of.
It's pretty dumb.
He's a boring, boorish bore.
Exactly.
There you go.
Boorish
Yeah.
boar.
Aaron
Yeah,
Lasso
perfect.
over there.
Got him.
That was a compliment. I just thought it said
Is that a
Lasso-ish.
Ted Lasso joke?
Yeah, well, I
Well,
thought
no,
the
I meant
boring,
got Remy.
boorish bore
Yeah.
was very Ted Lasso-y. Anyway, Hilo, like Picho's bringing up, he's got some good advice. Don't show off how much you hate a man until you're ready to be his enemy.
That was a good line.
It's smart.
Am I the only one that kind of enjoyed John Remy this entire chapter?
I kind
I
of
was like, he's kind of
liked
making. Yeah. I was like,
In the same way that I love Apple. Like, he's just that right degree of psychopath that I'm like, all right, I get it.
I feel
Yeah.
like
And he was kind of making some good points. He's like, I don't give a fuck about you. You don't give a fuck about me. I'm just going to get like what I can get for right now because the getting is good.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And so like, I was like, he doesn't give a shit about how Kekanese are, thought of in the country of Hispania. So it's like trying to convince him to care about something like that is never going to work.
I think he's like a bad guy, though.
He
Yeah.
is. No, I'm just saying I just kind of enjoyed his whole shtick here.
The
She
point
says
where he really
rooting
kind
for
of
Ite.
I'm
feel
only
like-
into
we say
female
rooting for any
boars.
planet.
I feel like so Apple, a lot of his atrocities are described to us and we don't see them as much. But
Mhm.
then
That's from Red Rising for those of you who haven't read it.
here we see Remy, like the first interaction, he like tries to sexually assault Andon. You know what I mean? So like we're already like,
Yeah.
fuck this guy to a different degree.
Wow, Ben, you're into some really bad stuff.
So that's
Do we
why
need to talk about
I
it?
was like, I'm out.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't, and
Well,
then
I'm not, like-
Apple's just like
I'm not
so
saying he's a-
special, right? I just mean that's why like. Plus, I feel like Apple is just such like the S tier
He
of this
speaks
type of
poetry.
character. So it's like anyone
Yeah.
else, I'm just like,
Yeah.
no sauce.
No, I was just enjoying his bits here. And I just like, I thought their exasperation with him was a little annoying because like we know who we invited to the party here.
Especially Andon. Like, why is Andon so worked up?
Why are we trying to reason with this dude? Because he's not going to see it. So it's like that part of it. I was just like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was invited. He just kind of rolled up.
Yeah,
but at the same
that's a good
time,
point.
It's probably in
regardless,
the newspaper.
where it really crossed the line for me was when he started talking about like, maybe I'll just start collecting tributes like they do in KCON, and Sana really put him in his place in that respect of like, all right,
Yeah,
are
you're
you
not doing
going
shit
to
for the
actually
neighborhood.
give
Yeah.
back for that tribute, or is this a collection racket? Like,
Are you extorting? Yeah.
yeah, I liked that nuance that she was able to provide, where we
I
could see
agree.
like,
that was good.
this is how he sees it versus the reality of what the clans provide.
Yeah. And in KCON, it was, at least when the street war was going on, like genuinely for protection against the other clan and to help rebuild once from interclan strife.
Yeah. I meant protection racket, but the protection is against
No,
themselves.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
That's what I was trying to say. Like another layer to what Sana was doing at. I was not disagreeing with you at all.
Perfect. Yeah.
What do we think about the Doubt's plans for Jade and Espenia to make this nationalized association kind of like a lobbying group and advocacy group for the population as a whole?
Good plan. Builds on their PR campaign that they're already working on.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Got to change hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
My one sort of hang up on that is, how is Kelly going to react to that? And
Who cares? She sucks. Get out of here, Kelly.
I guess my thing is she going to try to put a stop to it because her name is tied to it?
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like she's set herself apart enough
Yeah, I think
in
she'll
her own
like ignore it.
dealings. No one.
It seems very Espenian, the plan. So, well crafted. But that is all I have for this chapter. A lot going on.
Yeah, lots of parts and pieces moving. We don't have a long time to settle it all out.
There is just so much that happens across these chapters.
Yeah.
But, I think the only other thing that I'd throw in is that we get the first mention of Andon's boyfriend.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I skipped over that in my notes,
Yeah.
I think.
Abuke honey.
Jirhu?
Oh, yeah. I skipped over 2 bullet points in my
Jirhu?
summary. Thank you, Cross.
Cut.
Return.
Yeah, we can just keep it. Hilo's
Rewind.
age is catching up with him somewhat. They go to the hotel room, and there's that bit where Hilo's like, it's fucking freezing in here. And Andon just like does a mental catalog of like, hey, my guy's aging a little bit, a little creaky sometimes in the weather. I thought for sure, even though I've already read this, obviously, I was like, another bomb's about to fucking go off with he's going to adjust the dial. It's going to explode. It's like, why is it so cold in his room?
Wow, you're paranoid, Thomas.
We can't have any more bombs.
I thought it was going to be,
it's
who
coming.
touched the fucking thermostat? And just go
The
super
kid stowed
down
away
on it.
somehow. That would have been good. And then obviously during that hotel sequence, Andy has a boyfriend. Wen set them up, and he's hiding it from Hilo at the moment.
But of course he knows about it because it's Wen.
And they share everything now.
Andon should know that.
Aw.
Andon should know that Wen is like talking to either of them is talking to both of them.
It's true.
I think it's more,
But good for Andon.
good for Andon.
All right. With that, we get into chapter 31, Disappointment. We open to call Nico Yan, of which, by the way, was anyone else thrown by hearing Nico Yan again and being like, wait,
Yeah.
who's Nico Yan?
On the audiobook,
Like,
I
oh.
was. Because I was like, what the fuck, who?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh.
But anyway, we open to call Nico Yan post-coital with a girl, Mira, reflecting on his place in the clan as a disappointment while receiving a blowjob after a recent confrontation with a finger that went south. Later, Lochin and some of the other fingers, including Nico, are sent into the mountain territory to root out some CFM smugglers, which goes successfully, but without much assistance from the prodigal Nico Yan. Following the killing of the CFM members, the prince of the Coben family, Ait Otto, brands the CFM sympathizers and those who didn't actively work against them in an act of social cruelty. Nico sinks into himself, not knowing who he is or how to react. in this moment.
I just got to point out that in the same sentence, you mentioned sex and a finger that went south. And
I was thinking that too, but I thought it was just me.
Oh, no, that was intentional. That was 100% intentional. I wrote so many sexual innuendos into that because there's so much sex mentioned in this chapter,
what?
but
I
not
was
like
man, I got a gutter mind
mentioned.
over here.
Yeah.
Also, this is where I really realized that Nico wasn't an 8-year-old.
Oh,
you couldn't miss the time jump now, huh?
This is where I was like, okay, he's getting head.
Everybody sucks. in
probably
box.
older than 8 years old.
Hope so.
Golly.
Oh my god.
He's like 22 here, which
Yeah.
is like how old Hilo was when we first met him.
Hilo was 27,
Mhm.
I believe.
Okay.
Was Shay this
No, when
old?
we
Was Shay 22?
First met.
I think they're like Irish twins.
Yeah, Shay was
I feel like they
25.
were younger,
Shay was 25. Yep.
I think they
Yeah.
say Hilo was 27 and the youngest horn anyone should remember.
Okay.
Yep, you're right.
But I mean, point being, still incredibly young, and like there's a lot here. What a weird way to open up, not a weird way, but an interesting way to open up the chapter with him being just so indifferent and distant, right, in this moment. And then also at the same time comparing it to his other relationships that he's clearly been distant and absent in.
Yeah, so all these descriptions of Nico and how he reacts to everything, I feel like Fonda is writing him as if he's either on the spectrum or maybe as like a psychopath. Like she's writing him as if he doesn't operate like, you know, a standard emotional reaction.
Now,
he's definitely an enigma.
it has been some time since I studied psychology undergrad, but I believe most of his affectations and lack thereof, affects and lack thereof, and all that good stuff is indicative of insecure attachment as a baby, which would make sense because his mother was murdered and he was raised by strangers. So I think it's a lot of that.
yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
I
And
think
just
what you think.
him as a
Go
baby
ahead.
too. Him as a baby too. He had some of those same characteristics of being like staring and
Mhm.
kind of creepy. Like, Nico, you're not supposed to be watching from the corner there. How long have you been there?
Nico
also-
put the gun down.
Held Rue's mouth shut with the beads. When that
Yeah.
went.
That could be
That's me. It was just like
You know
kids.
whose fault this is?
Tar. That could be Tar.
Fucking Tar. It's all Tar's
That
fault.
seemed more
The
like-
whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Where is that guy? We don't know.
Yeah, great question. You know, there's a lot to answer there on Tar's front. I feel like Nico, to your point, Aaron, is just and has been forever disconnected. Thomas, to what you were saying as well. There's clearly something there, and some emotional detachment as an origin point makes sense. But he also does mirror Lon, and in some ways, I think he's also a different but improved version of writing on like the sort of depressed side that we saw from Andon. Like he's got a different sort of thing going on. He's got the same kind of, I don't want to call it a whiny vibe, but he's got the same thing going on in a different capacity, which I think is interesting, especially just to compare Nico and Andon.
The same turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a version of Andon, but we don't know him as well, so it's harder to empathize with him.
Yeah, this is the first time we're meeting him really as like a person. You know, there's entitlement potentially. I think he's even talking to Hilo when he has this whole conversation about filling in the picture or making himself fit like a mismatched puzzle piece. Like he's like, I'm just being put into a frame that you imagine me to fit as this sort of inheritor of the pillar. And that obviously leads into a lot of the rest of what happens this week. But yeah, he's clearly not feeling great in the spot.
Nico is a Disney princess.
Oh my god. Screw you. Just kidding.
It's fat.
Fair enough. We had spoken about this earlier, but we run into and there's going to be action tonight as our horn recommends not having sex before in action because it puts you off of edge, and that may or may not have came into play with what happened to him during the 3-ring engagement.
I'm just saying that blue balls makes for great deflection.
I think that's what Hilo's saying too.
Jizz powers
Think
deflection.
Think about it.
Jesus much.
It's a lot of pent up energy.
Oh god,
Seems like
love it.
It's the fuel.
incredibly dangerous to be a finger, because there's so many people with way more Jade than you that just murder you, and you're just like, la 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 la.
And you're
go
also
fight.
trying to prove yourself actively. Yeah. The other side of that is like you're trying to prove yourself, and that's just the worst.
Yeah.
And if you have a single
grounders.
stone, you're open game for everybody in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm realizing now, looking at this, that I didn't put any notes on the action that happens between Nico and another finger, wherein he's intoxicated and at a bar and ends up giving him his card to dissuade from a duel.
That's where I got the psychopath vibes.
Yeah. He runs through his justification. He's like, I gave him something. We all got something, or didn't get something out. Like, he rationalized it so well.
Is it
and
Aisha?
couldn't
Yeah.
understand that it was like a really fucked up thing to do.
But I saw it as like he had like cold snake eyes. Like he's like, I didn't even have to fight you, and now you look like an idiot.
I just didn't like his lack of understanding of like,
The politics.
well, yeah, just like how it also just makes him look bad. It makes the other person look bad. Like it's kind of a gross way to handle that situation. But I'm not
Snake
saying like
eyes.
fighting, I guess, is the right way either. But like
And
that's the culture.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but at the same time, just like the way he handled it, I don't know. He's like, here you go, poor boy. Like,
Yeah, I don't even need this car. I'm rich.
Yeah, the way that I read it, he didn't see it as a slight. He didn't see it as like a humiliation thing.
yeah,
When he was going through the rationalization of it, it felt to me that he was genuinely thinking that this
Right.
just solved the problem. And it wasn't like
Yeah.
a humiliation tactic or anything that would bring dishonor to either of their families in any sort of way. Like it just went over his head in that respect.
That's where I come back to entitled, right? Like that's where I think that there's something interesting about Nico, which is I think that he's kind of, it hasn't been like it's a time of security, but it feels very different compared to where Lon and Hilo came from, where there was maybe something more immediate to being a Greenbone and the requirements of them because of the proximity to the history that we heard about again in the interlude, versus now it doesn't feel like it's still, of course, it's a big deal. Of course, there's the clan warfare going on, but can some of these traditions fade in time? Are some of these things going to change?
He feels like he's a millennial.
Yeah, totally. By comparison.
Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that in the disposition of the parents too. Like Call Sen, not their parent, their grandparent, but still the person that primarily raised them, as like almost like a World War II vet.
The greatest generation, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Versus a, like, I don't know, Gen Xer raising millennials.
Boomer.
Mm-hmm. Hilo's a boomer. Did we just come to that realization? I think I just came to that realization.
He
think
would
he
be,
is.
but like he shows emotion to his kids. He tells them he loves them and stuff like that.
For sure. He's got more in common with Gen X, but it is funny to think about it on the time frame because it does make him a boomer.
maybe Nico's Gen Z.
He's a
He
zoomer.
seems very
On God.
he seems very millennial to me, where he's just like, just want to do what I
Indifferent.
want, Yeah, and indifferent to the thing, and they're just like, why can't I just like chill and have a good time?
Mhm.
All
Is he
your
like-
traditions don't
Can't
mean
even buy a house in this economy.
Yeah,
There's the note on Sim's niece, of whom is one of the fingers that is obviously fighting in this engagement. And there's this interesting self-evaluation that happens with Nico where he comes to realize, like, oh, hey, I didn't treat this like any of my other family would, and I should have been nicer. I should have opened up, as opposed to just sort of saying, yes, I'll totally get you those tickets. Not that he's not being kind in the moment, but he's just realizing that he could have won him over had he, emulated some of Hilo's actions. And I think it's so interesting to see a character compared to a lot of ours that is so much more self-aware. The only other character that is this close, I think, is Shay.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that he does see, he is watching and absorbing, like, how Wen deals with people and how Hilo deals with people. And
he sees it transactionally, though.
Yeah, he's like, why don't I deal with people that way?
Mm. But he doesn't see it as like the right thing to do or what can like just get him friends. He sees it as a currency almost, and sees it as like what can be gained from having these pleasantries, even though he's not able to do it.
Spectrum. Maybe that's insecure attachment. I don't know.
Yeah,
Thomas is the expert.
It definitely fits some of those other definitions of at the very least questioning, your reality, and that can fall under all kinds of different things. So I'm in on that. So we see Lojin and Otto, rather, all grown up. Lot has grown into a man set to be the next Horn, while Otto has grown into a stylish fucking monster of a person from where we saw him in the duel. Thoughts on the two similarly aged men? I mean, I guess Lot's a little bit older, but
we got Pretty Boy.
Yeah, he's like all flash and always has a statement prepared.
I don't remember if he was physically described as having a very, very long ponytail, but I imagine him with a very, very long ponytail.
I did not imagine that. He's supposed to be a pretty boy, not a weird-looking kid with a ponytail.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of those pretty boy affectations, and he gives, like, vibes. He reminds me of the Yuiwan gangster, of whom I'm forgetting his name once again for the second week in a row. Zapunyo. He reminds me of Zapunyo's kids, or how they were described, and he has some of those sort of affectations of style in addition to, or trying to substitute for, something that he's missing.
All right, drinking game. Go back and re-listen to the episode and drink every time Crossland says affectation.
God damn it.
Drink every time
affectation
Crossland
is
says
not the new
of
Gambit.
whom or of which.
People don't use who and whom
drinking
correctly.
Game. Go through the whole book and drink every time Fonda Lee says vociferously.
Is that a word that's used a lot?
Yes.
I haven't noticed.
Love to catch those. It's amazing. But they go in, obviously, predominantly as we find out, the Nopi clan is the one that busts them up. We see Lojin kill a couple of people incredibly with some throwing knives through the windows before they make their way into the back and take out the rest. Our boy, quote, Nico, freezes in the moment in which he's supposed to actually do what he's doing. Lot kind of pushes him past and does what's due and takes care of them. What'd you make of our little action sequence and Nico and Lot?
It's got to be so hard to accurately throw throwing knives through a window, right? Like, that's got to be impossible.
Pretty badass.
Super
badass. Is the best to ever do it when it comes to knife throwing, though.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point. He was always good at it.
Classic Nico here, pausing, taking his time.
I need to think about it.
You take some time to think about this.
Yeah, I thought it was premature for Lot to throw him in front.
Mm-hmm.
But he clearly had a plan to not let him.
Supposed to give him opportunities.
He's like, you're fucked up. Get out of the way.
Dad's looking for.
Jumping ahead a little bit, just on that note, I thought it was a little weird how he was like, he freezes in the action, and then the next time we see him, he's like, join a mercenary group.
Yeah,
that's true.
But he can't handle street level violence. And he's like, now I'm a soldier of fortune.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the violence is the issue. I think it's like the clan related stuff, like
the pressure of doing it the right way or something.
He's like, if I'm working for the clan, that's like he knows he's being like watched. I think with Jim's group,
he can be a nobody.
Yeah, he can just be one of the guys and then
see the world.
Do you think that happens? Like, I feel like that's naive. I feel like he's going to be
we are
used
talking
as an
about a
inroads
20-year-old.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Let's save it. Sorry. I just wanted to do a little
definitely talk
touch
about
on
that.
I think the whole problem is that his balls are empty, and he like that.
He
Yeah,
can't.
he should've-
That's
he
why
should've
shut up or shut up
shortened
because
it.
you don't have
Not
any nut. It's just shutting
It
up.
So you're saying it's
was,
Mara's fault,
Mara.
PJ?
Mara's fault.
It is. Yep.
Wow.
Totally.
She was
Blame
too
the woman.
eager.
Way to go. No, just kidding.
I think it's because he didn't get any nachos.
He was kind of hungry, you know. Like his stomach was empty in the moment. I love that little bit of comedy where it's like we could order food. Nah, I'm not hungry, and then he gets there and he's like, "Fuck, I'm hungry." It's just like, no, you were hungry, motherfucker. You're just indecisive. That's your character.
That was a good bit.
Yeah. All right, so. You know, I know obviously Otto takes and heats up a pole and brands the guy of whom is in charge of one of the businesses that's nearby that supposedly had
Bakery,
information.
Or the
Yeah.
bar.
No, so it was a barber. Yeah.
Those B words.
Those B words. Boar, bakery, barber, bar. Yeah. But brands the barber as well as some of the other members of the street of whom didn't rat them out, but weren't maybe sympathizers by any extent because they weren't helpful. This entire area was branded by this pole. What do we think about Height Otto? How do we
They
feel?
deserved it.
Wow. I was like, that's a strong.
No, obviously it's
Fucking get
fucked up, and it's like pretty close to against Aisho, I would say.
Were these
I would say
lantern
I would
men?
agree.
There's a chance that they could have been, or like members of Lantern Men families, or like, you know, like specifically, I do not believe that there were Lantern Men. It is mountain territory, so it's hard to tell. And it is their justice to dole out, which is why No Peak doesn't do anything. But
It's
I
pretty
agree
fucked
with.
up.
Yeah, I agree with Juan's assessment. Like, it's barbaric. You're going to end up like probably turning more people like even more against you than they would have been, and you also now people have a reason to like be really fucking mad at you because you branded their face on top of being a clan, and then it also like is an indicator of like, oh, you got fucked up by them, I got fucked up by them too. Like we should try and fuck them up. Seems like a bad idea. Not a big on
all
branding.
around.
Yeah, you get branded, you're definitely joining the clanless future.
Like, yeah, what's going to stop you at that point? You've already got a brand on your face. It's not like you're getting a job.
What's that on your face? Nothing.
Yeah. I was branded in a gang war.
That's a good thing the guy owns his own barber shop already.
Yeah, right.
You know, people are loyal to
He
their
doesn't have to go
barbers, so
apply
he's
somewhere
fine.
else.
People are loyal to their barbers.
True.
People are creatures of habit. Fiercely brand loyal.
Which is why we always do ads on this show. Buy Apothic Inferno at your local liquor. Don't do it. Still don't do it. It's really bad. All right. So I just have to ask, I know that we don't really love people or, you know, enjoy people who don't understand their place in the world, but in the end of this chapter, how are we feeling about Nico?
I don't like that framing of it. I think you're accusing us of
I don't
something.
like that framing either.
We don't like whiny boys. Like Andon. Suck it up.
And Nico now.
They're different.
Nico's whining feels much less well placed than Andon's did.
Yeah, I would agree.
So you
Andon's
like
was
Nico
pretty annoying
less.
too, though.
Yeah.
I don't.
Let's not
That's
forget.
true.
I feel like
That's
we should
true.
have.
We should feel bad for Nico, but I mean, his mom did get murdered and he's stolen away from his family. Like,
I feel like
but I'm just having a hard time getting there because he's such an asshole. So it's kind of his own fault.
I feel like we could have benefited from Nico, like any inkling that Nico was affected by his mother's death until the outcome later on when he is like, I don't know what my parents
That's what
would
I think is like. This is either part of the point or what they're something she's trying to do something with this character. So because like to me, like if we're supposed to like or empathize with him at this point, we missed the ball on that because like we haven't got enough development out of him as a character. We haven't seen enough of him to be in that place. So like either he's going to continue to be a bigger character here and like we'll learn more about him so we can start to feel
To care about it
more. But yeah, if we're expected to like him at this point, then that's a failure of the writing, which I don't think is the case. I think we're supposed to be kind of like, yeah, this is kind of a entitled little dickhead.
I knew when we killed the mom, he'd become a villain, right?
I think we're supposed
That's
to
what you said.
feel about him as we do, which is we don't like him yet, but we do feel for him.
Right. Like, yes, I understand like why he has so much anger, and I think it's like well placed. Like it doesn't, yeah. So yeah, I would say I understand him, but have a hard time liking him as a person and just like the actions that he's taking as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely understand. And it's tough to, I mean, the reality is that it's like we understand his situation, but we don't know who he is, right? And this is kind of the introduction. And the way that he's pitched to us is this slow ball of indifference. And, you know, and that makes it tough to immediately, you know, latch in, jump in on Nico.
Yeah, it's hard for us to be like, yeah, go Nico. Like,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Don't love those girls. Don't share your emotions with anyone. I enjoy that from you.
And it comes at a time where I'm like, I want to see Hilo versus Ait, and so that, or like Shay and Ait battling it out. So it's like some of this is also frustration with just like, where the fuck is this going? You know?
Fuck them kids.
It's our recurring theme is fuck them kids.
Agreed.
Chapter 32, Passages, the 19th year, 8th month. We open at Now Suinzin's funeral, which Shay is attending for some reason. While there, she glimpses what seems to be possible friction between the mountain's pillar and heir apparent. She returns to the tall estate and finds her daughter, Tia, and husband drawing together, which is just a cute scene. I love to see it. Woon and Shay discuss the Liban Act and get us caught up with some of the fallout of the bombing of the TJA meeting before heading over to dinner at the main house. And then this features some more business and plan discussions, including the absorption of the Black-tailed clan into No Peak. So, a very busy chapter, and we get yet another, albeit smaller, time jump here. My first question, and it seems like it might have based on our discussion around Dowd Lawson's funeral, did the opening of this chapter work for you?
The funeral?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of wish we got more Now Swen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was sad
I
to
was
see
kinda
him
sad
go
he was gone.
because he was slimy and creepy and gross and a weird dude, but he was a fun character.
Yeah, I liked him, his relationship with I when she was dying. That brought out some depth to him, and then now he's dead. I like the opening though, where Shay comes in and Aitmata kind of looks back.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely
was
cool
cool.
parts of it, and I am happy to be in the minority here. It just did not work for me. I thought it was like a little. It seemed orchestrated, like we needed a reason to. It just seemed contrived. I guess I don't know. Like, why would she be there?
Well, Shay's paying her respects
It's just-
because she knows that Now Swen meant something to I and Shay.
Has a weird thing.
They also
for
had like
Ike.
a weird connect. I thought Shay Now had a weird,
Respectful hatred.
respect connection
I
for each. I don't know. It was weird.
I mean,
they had
he
some kind of
murdered
connection.
her chief of staff, and it was a dick about it. And then she was like, "Let me go get him to save Ite's life," and that was it. They had like 2 interactions.
Well, he also like let her live when she got shot.
Yeah, but that was purely practical.
There was more to that reaction, I thought, or that scene in Liu Kang, where I don't know, it's just like they saw each other, and there was like an understanding there to me.
I see you.
Yeah,
Wasn't Aitmata at Carl Sen's wedding or funeral?
Yeah, but that was like a state event almost.
But like everyone was. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this was a former Horn.
Mm-hmm. And a war
Like
hero.
not the same as a pillar, but
He was a war hero.
It was exactly. He was an upstanding Kekanese citizen.
Mm-hmm.
I
With
didn't
that
think
odd
it was-
level of respect, like you were saying.
Yeah. So it does
Yeah,
make sense
I
that
didn't-
No Pete
I
would
didn't think
send
it was
somebody
weird.
there.
And Shay's kind of spiritual, so
Shay is
I don't know.
spiritual.
Yeah.
it fit for me.
It would have been weird if Hilo showed up,
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
but I thought, yeah, it's on brand for Shay to pay respects and be a nice person.
The only other thing that I have to add is that I think the other side of this to me is that Shay is the weatherman reading the clouds as often as possible, and getting the vibe on an event like this feels like reading the clouds.
Yeah, she got some vibes from the Mata and what's the other right?
Otto. Yeah.
Otto.
Yeah. It seemed to me like the whole thing was just an excuse to let us see that, or to have Shay, like, just give No Pete an excuse to learn that. But it's just like, seems fairly obvious that I wouldn't be into her heir apparent and would think he was a Peacock based on everything we know about the two characters. Maybe I'm just being a hater. I don't know. Sorry, everybody.
No, you're welcome to have the opinion.
We get
Yeah, I don't think it like was some like breaking news. Otto and Mata are like tight.
Mhm.
I feel like they knew already, but she's like, oh yeah, that kind of confirms my priors.
And then that leads us to, I guess, a reflection from Shea and Wen, to a degree, the contrast between the Tobins / Ite Otto in the media versus how Ite handles it. They're very upfront and like making a scene, publicity based. She's just like
Love a
doing what she
statement.
got to do.
Yeah, yep. They love a statement to the media.
Is
I
this
think
also
it shows more. Sorry, go ahead.
is this also the section where it readdresses the point that the Cobins had made that media announcement before Ite's body was even found? Or was that later on?
That might be here. I don't remember specifically when it happens. Because they discuss how
I'll double check.
Tobin
Yeah,
Tinbet
pretty
is a
sure it's
councilwoman and has done something seemingly without the permission of Ite. She's introduced a bill that's more nationalistic than Ite would want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So
I'm
making
just
stuff
a
up.
bill. Anyway,
Fuck the Cobins.
I think that the Cobins, the contrast between the Cobins and Aitmata shows that Aitmata holds more power. She doesn't have to like make a showing. Like she can be silent and people are still like afraid of her. Whereas the Cobins have to like peacock around.
I like that.
It kind of makes her seem more classy
Mhm.
and like more powerful. I don't know.
There's an interesting bit here too that I brought up to Cross during the first book, and I don't know if here's like the picture perfect place to place it, but it fits. Where we learn, Tall Sennington's role was misdirecting the Shatarians and the trickery, the propaganda, all that stuff. And Udantin was the fighter. He was the warrior. He was the spear, and Tall Sen the torch, right? And then now the roles are kind of reversed, where the Mountain is the one. They were the first to get into bed with the foreigners, albeit illicitly. They were using the Itaton on the down low, black market Jade dealings going on. They're always scheming. They're always tricky. They're always misdirecting No Pete. So they're like emulating their founders, but in reverse. Because especially in Jade War, like Hilo, very militaristic pillar. Aitmata, very clever, tricky. It's kind of progressed over time where No Pete has some schemes. The hot war isn't going on as much anymore, but I always thought that was interesting.
But now it's the hot war, and Otto's hotter than Nico.
Tough. War in the
tough.
press, and, page 6 is not about it.
I love that there's this like quasi reversal that you point out here between sort of the clans and the way that they do the things differently. And it's almost like the sort of nationalistic stances of the clans have even reversed over the course of the years. It felt like the torch was there to carry the spirit of Kakon, which feels like that nationalistic thing. Meanwhile, that's now reverted to the Mountain as they become kind of this mouthpiece, which is interesting. I did want to throw back to PJ real quick and just say, yes, it is this chapter in which they talk about both, as Aaron was mentioning, the elevation of Mrs. Coben, Widow Coben, to the council. And then in addition, they announced it well before they found Ite's body. is in this chapter.
And Mrs. Coben is the one who was like rude to
Yeah.
Wen.
Yes.
Yeah, Wen even says it's like comforting to think Mata probably finds her as annoying as I do.
Mhm. So I can see that being a wedge, and pairing that with the fact that Shay and Andon spare her, it would have been really cool to see an immediate like follow up and amicable relationship between Shay and Ait at the very least before this time jump happened. But now it just feels like that could have been really cool. Given that it's 6 years later.
Maybe Ait just doesn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Maybe she's just like, damn, that's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
She's got other things to worry about.
She's like, that was your mistake. Don't know what to tell you. Moving on, we did a look into the home life of Poppy, Shay, and Tia, and it was just a very wholesome, very cute scene. Woon, stay-at-home dad, and we did a cute bit of him being like, it comes natural. I'm used to being bossed around by a powerful little woman, and Shay being like, that's unfair of you. I'm hardly little. Just cute. Loved it.
Yeah, that was cute.
Some flirting.
Like, oh, they're not always awkward. Sometimes they're cute.
You'd hope at this
We had a lot
point
of
they
happy
wouldn't be
relationships.
awkward.
Yeah.
We also did the Liban act and sort of the fallout of Malovny being taught the Aspenians leaking no peak intelligence, which comes off a little later, but feels fine to lump in here a little bit.
The
Yeah,
Liban Act was like the no ingesting Jade thing.
Yeah, no, like human experimentation and
Yeah.
Jade experimentation and all that.
That's probably a good law.
Good idea.
Will it matter, really? Who knows? But it does seem
Yeah, I
like
was
a good
gonna
law.
say, it seems that they didn't sign up, but they're going to continue to do it.
Who's to say Aspenia won't
The only people
do
who are
it?
doing it. Yeah. I would not put it past them at all. They're probably doing it right now.
Right at this very moment.
Taking shots.
Somewhere.
The Aspenians are just, they suck.
Yeah. But we
Okay,
do
true.
get my fucking dudes, Berglund and Gallo. Spinoff is coming. I feel it. I feel it.
Like first law, but with them.
Yeah. Give us the standalone.
Mhm. I don't. Yeah. Lot is confirmed as the successor to Juen, getting his wish to retire. 45, God bless him. Nobody wants to work anymore, though.
I wish
Tough.
I could retire at 45.
Hear that, brother?
It's like, I'm old for a horn, and it's like, are you? You haven't been any
You're
of that.
doing such a good job, though.
I know. Like, you're not fighting in the streets every day anymore. You're basically, coordinating shit.
If Hilo was young for Horn at 27 and he's old for Horn at 45, I feel like there's a very small window
That's a good point.
in which you can be
I
a
just don't think
Horn.
there's
I
much
think he
of a
was just kinda-
lifespan.
Talking, out of his ass, more or less. Because the other horn before Hilo was described as old. So that might just be because
Yeah.
Hilo was 27. He might have been, 45.
Do we feel like Mr. Lote is ready for this job?
Sure.
How old is he at this? He's in his late 30s, probably. So, he's not
old as
Aaron
he's
says
not
so
that much
defended.
younger than Juen, right?
He's like the same age as Andon, right?
Hmm.
So, what is that? Low 30s
I think
at this point?
Is
Yeah.
it low still?
34.
Okay.
I think it's like
But
34.
that's not that big of a difference, 11 years.
All right.
No.
Horns can be 35 to 40 years old, and
Yeah.
we just churn through them
Then we
constantly.
just bang.
It's that 5-year window.
Doesn't.
Looks like Ben and I are in our Horn prime.
Wow.
God bless.
That could have been so much worse. You're so close to horny prime. That would have been
I think that was
completely different.
why
I think that's where
said
Ben's face went. Ben was thinking.
I think we all got it across.
Okay, well, no one else. Hey, it's an audio medium. I had to put it out there.
Did you, though?
Less is more sometimes. But that's
No.
showbiz,
Well,
baby.
Okay. Showbiz,
This is a live
baby.
podcast.
I love Lote. I love Lote quite a bit, and
It feels like-
I appreciate. We the other day in the Discord we were floating around. 4 characters that feel like you, and I never gave my answers. But I feel like I could pretty primely agree with Lote as a version of a character of me.
Just trying to emo vibes from him.
Well, emo, angry, but then receptive. It's my vibe sometimes. It's one of my moods.
How are your knife skills?
pretty decent, actually.
Okay, we'll think on it.
I've cut myself several times on exit. PJ was about to chime in. I had to stop him from outing me.
So I don't remember the exact sequence here, but I want to touch on, before we get into the end of this chapter, Twit. Did anybody else, the Espenians giving the No Pete clan like floppy disk shout out of the technology for Aaron, we get, it felt like, the Espenians hate to be in somebody's debt. It kind of shit the bed a little bit with the getting the note to Hilo late and not getting him out of the building, not getting him distracted before the KJA bomb explodes, right? And they've seen, like, through the relationship with Shay specifically, that, a debt doesn't always have to be paid off in money, and specifically No Pete does like to be paid off in these favors. Does it strike anyone as not only, like, the practical this or ally in the region, but also they're paying off their debt in a way by helping them deliberately get a step up on the mountain?
At what?
I could see that.
I think the point is, at what cost, though? Like, how many people died?
Well, that's the debt. That's what they're paying off now.
Yeah.
Right. I love how they explain that away, too. And they're like, what did they even say? They were
we sent a note.
They were like, we sent the note, but whatever they were kind of like, well, if that happened, or nobody can say, whether they were involved or not, or what happened, but we just...
Well, I didn't send a note.
I was like...
Did you send a note?
They just completely brushed it aside. They're like, what about all those people that died? And they're like, well, did people die? I don't know.
We weren't involved.
They were like, false flag.
It feels so American false flag, I was about to say. It's got a lot of those elements of like, we found out that there was a terrorist attack, but
nothing but love from my...
Whether we knew about that or not is irrelevant. Yeah. Like, this is what's relevant now, is basically what they said, I think, is like, basically, like, whether we knew at the time or not, that was irrelevant. Like, we're just giving you this information now because we're friends.
Yeah. Nothing but love for those two pieces of shit, Gallo and Birkeland. Catch them on CBS on Sunday. 9
it does
p.m.
feel like a First Law spinoff for sure.
Anyway,
right there.
Hilo basically literally does the Rip Bozo rest in piss you won't be missed meme. And when Shay's like, I was at Now Suin's funeral, he's like, fuck that guy. Creepy. Hated him more than John Ash.
Yeah, that guy's creepy.
I think that was funny. I
like
laughed.
Severo. You're creepy.
Yeah.
And then this chapter ends with the Blacktail clan joining No Pete.
Yep.
That
was nice. Mm-hmm. Another fallout from the bombing.
Mm-hmm.
5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this scene did a really good job of portraying the weight of that decision from the pillar of that clan.
Yeah, especially, Ben, I know that you were kind of making it in jest of 5 years later, but I think that's actually part of the strength here is that like they probably tried to make it work for an incredibly long period of time. Couldn't, were getting either like gradually eaten away at by No Peak or otherwise, and then came to terms with the reality of the situation.
But, yeah.
And pledged honor.
That's basically what Hilo's speech at the end. He's like, you did the best you can.
Yeah, right.
You can look yourself in the mirror and know it. But now you're doing even better than that by doing what's best for your people and your city.
Mm-hmm. Right. Great point. No Peak's getting bigger.
Busy fucking chapter. Yeah. 2 tigers,
World's
growing, getting older. Danger.
Big old tigers.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Danger, Will Robinson. Chapter 33, Truth Bearers. We hop into the perspective of Art Wiles, owner of the Anarcho shipping company from Espenia. After dismissing his Kekanese mistress Lula, he holds a call with Joe Boy Gasson, followed by a meeting with Jim Cento, and holds discussions of both a political and strange faith culty nature that we're definitely going to get into. We also talk about Operation Firebreak, which feels like a conspiracy from the Espenian military operation that surrounds Jade, its use, as well as the containment of the Icatanians. And Jim Cento's company, GSI, is invited to be included in its ranks since they can't formally do it with the military or they don't have the resources to. And this all culminates in the form of a buyout that integrates Anarcho and GSI into one vertical company of Jade and Jade Mercenary Production. This is a wild chapter with a lot of like political, crazy, weird, interesting set pieces. I'm curious how you guys thought about it. What you guys thought?
I thought we were friends, Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
That only gets worse next chapter.
This is the one where I was like, more people?
I know I had the exact same reaction.
See,
I was like,
yeah.
more people, a fucking
Who is this guy? And then finally,
religion.
finally Jim Sento came in. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
at least we know someone.
I mean, we get.
I was like, we got weird religion stuff going on now. I was like, there's a whole
Kissing your necklace.
plot line getting pulled in. I'm like, this almost became too much.
There's a lot.
But then I could kind of see where it was going by the end.
We do.
I was like,
Yeah, once Jim Sento came in, I was like, okay, now I'm grounded.
We have-
But at first, I was like, who the fuck are these people?
We have had chapters like this before, though, where there's like a seemingly random one-off point of view character who comes in. I do think they've probably been teased before, where it's like we've seen Chancellor Sohn before, and then a couple chapters later we get his point of view.
right.
But there have been similar things.
And I think to that point, we don't get Art Wiles' name more than once or twice before this point, but we do get the Anarcho Shipping Company, which has been the ship that they've been trying to take down repeatedly. So it's kind of putting a face to the business, I think, is what this chapter really does.
And what we said came true. They didn't stop rebuilding it.
Yeah. It's just, I think more of my frustration comes from like, I just want the threads to come together. I'm sure they will, but it's just like, now I've got 3 new threads that I'm following. So it's just like,
We need everyone to come to a conference and talk about how we're all going to end this book.
Cross and I actually
Together.
picked this series and love it so much because they're just continuously adds
It never
threads
ends.
and they
It just-
don't solve any of them. And it just,
Yeah,
book
nothing
just
is
ends.
ever resolved ever. It's just, you're just going to have to deal with it
Good to know.
emotionally.
and to me,
Yeah.
that is cinema.
No resolution is resolution. What do you mean?
the religion stuff was really weird.
Mhm.
I was like, where is this even coming from? And like, not really had any experience with that. Like, there's a little mention of the seer and whatnot, like throughout the second book, maybe, but like, that this is like some kind of like,
Christian nationalism
I don't
all of
know.
a sudden.
yeah,
It's definitely
right.
Christian nationalism.
Yes, it's like came out of nowhere for me. I was like, okay,
This is some righteous gemstones shit if I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Great show.
So that was
Mhm.
interesting. And to hear that Jim Santo's a weird nationalist Christian, that made me
Convert,
sad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like maybe Nico will think that's weird. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe Nico will
Nico's probably
start.
into it.
He'll start kissing necklaces too.
I mean,
Yeah.
the first time we meet Jim, it's very like his gold
Yeah.
triangle thing is on his neck with the Jade dog tags.
Prominent.
Which
Right.
did we? Never mind. I'm hung up on the Jade dog
You wanna
tag
talk
things.
about
I
the
feel
next
like it's described as a Jade dog tag every time, not like a Jade rimmed. But that just seems like a lot of Jade if it's a Jade dog tag.
I thought it was
Part of me
described
thinks
as
that
a
it's-
green dog tag with like a jade stud.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like Bluffer's Jade and then one in
So
the.
it's like Bluffer's Jade, and then yeah, exactly.
I'll accept that.
I was also wondering, this is a very technical Jade question, but like, does it have to be in contact with their skin the entire
I
time?
know.
Because
Maybe
like a necklace or
Right.
something would
it's
be like,
flopping around. You get like zin, zin, zin.
yeah. If you like bent down, your necklace is going to fall down.
Also,
I
Jay
picture-
question when back it up when Nico was fighting, it was talking about the jade studs in his talon knife. I was like, it's in his knife.
That's
what if
old
he
news.
drops
That
it?
was the thing. Yeah. That was
I
the
mean,
thing.
that's all of the Talon knives are.
Yeah.
What if you
Extra
drop
jade.
it?
And the moon.
Then you have like the withdrawal.
They have so much Jade already. It's just like extra Jade power.
Okay.
It's
I
barely a
digress.
withdrawal because it's not that much.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit of an edge when they're holding the weapon. Crazy chapter, nonetheless. There are so many fun questions that I think get raised. But I want to start off with the piece of shit Art Wiles, because we do get to get a little bit of his character background. And boy, oh boy, it's not a shocker because he's a wealthy industrialist, of course, in a pre-mobile phone age, to have this collection and assortment of houses and wives and mistresses. But boy, oh boy, it's still... It's
And
still
the
not
fact that
cool.
he's like dredging the ocean floor
Yeah.
for Jade, like this guy just sucks.
I was thinking that his Kekanese mistress might be a spy.
I was hoping that too. I was like,
Ooh.
assassinate this motherfucker.
No, I
Violent.
thought the person coming in was gonna like kill him, and she was gonna be like the spy.
Hmm.
And then it was just Jim.
Yeah.
I don't want to be inappropriately flippant, but I might. The whole, collection of houses and mistresses, He's just got hose in different area codes.
In
In different area codes.
Yeah.
God damn it.
He's got hose.
I mean, the biggest
Yeah.
deal for me is he's dredging the bottom of the ocean, which is bad.
To
Not
see no
environmentally
regard for
friendly.
the sea life.
Yeah.
Think
Or
about
the
the
Jade.
reef. Man,
Yeah, exactly. The
Natural
reef, the
habitats.
whales,
Destroying natural habitats.
It's
it's
fucked
a
up.
fucking disaster.
I don't know that whales are on this
Are
planet.
there no whales on this?
to be honest.
I'm gonna ask.
whales.
I'm gonna ask.
No whales.
Shit.
We'll have to ask Fonda. So,
Where are the whales?
where are the whales? Where are the whales? Lula, of course, is interesting, as you mentioned, thinking assassin. What are we thinking about Lula?
Hot.
Yeah, I was thinking spy assassin of some sort, but since we hadn't heard about it at all as a thing, like not even like any kind of a mention of like a white rat on Human Island or something like that, you know, anything like that. Maybe she's just a hoe,
Wow.
you know.
Powerful.
Use a hoe.
I don't know.
Powerful.
I'm hoping that she's more than that.
You're hoping?
Hoping.
Oh,
It was so bad. You don't acknowledge it. But Hoo Boy, in addition to all of the rest of the stuff that we've already talked about, we get some awesome politicking and kind of finally see the inner workings of the background of not only Ispenia, but also the way that this company is funded by Joe Boy Gasson and the crews. There's kind of a lot going on here in terms of the political investment and kind of an understanding of where things were even coming from and happening back in Jade War. What do you guys grab out of this chapter?
See, Art, it's Joe Boy. See? Don't forget
Joe
about
Boy
your old
Gasson.
friend Joe Boy.
Like Skinny Reeves.
Yeah, that was interesting. Everybody's got, I feel like Art said this,
Oh my
but it's
God.
like they're always dealing with this. Like a rich guy's got to have connections to bad people at some point. You don't get that powerful without it.
That phone call, I just realized on this Discord call recording this podcast with y'all, that phone call was like Pokemon, like one of the Pokemons where you have the phone and random people call you and they'll be like, "Hey, Thomas, just found out you beat this gym leader. Just want to let you know we're all tracking where you are back home and we're proud of you. Okay, bye." Like, fucking exactly
Same
what
kind of
happened.
idea. Yeah. Joe Boy Gasson's like, "All right, we're paying attention to your business logs and we see that you made it. It looks like the ship left the dock. We got you."
yeah.
Yeah, there was like a little bit of an implicit threat in there.
In a more thematic way, it felt like GTA 4, your cousin calling you.
Yeah. That's good. Love that. Anything on the religion aspect? Obviously, the politics are interesting in Firebreak, but
We thought it was a little chanty, culty.
Oh, yeah. As a person that's not a big fan of religion, I just roll my eyes immediately. Like,
Yeah.
God, here we go.
Hey, I'm into cults though. If it's a cult,
Creepy.
you would be. No.
Next,
Stop it.
Next short pour is Aaron just discussing cults.
And I mean, no offense to anybody who is religious, like, do you? But
I watch a lot of cult documentaries. It's just fascinating to me how people like get sucked into them. I wonder what Jim's recruiting story is. I was just signing up for a life coach,
truth.
and now I'm part of this religion.
and the untruth. There was like,
Should
there
we-
was like a whole
Should we start a cult?
weird.
We should start.
Also,
a cult.
capital T's,
Atomic pylon.
lowercase.
Religion LLC.
The truth versus untruth thing. I was like, that's a whole nother book right there.
Scientology, baby.
That's the third. That's the spinoff after Dallow and Birdland. We got to get that one because it's light. We need a break, but then boom, we're back to the dark shit.
I was like, that's a storyline that it's too late to get into.
We don't have enough pages.
So we end the chapter with the merging of Anarcho and GSI, of course, and this is this massive power move that happens between the two groups. What'd you guys make out of that?
Not good for Hilo.
I mean, I hate to see it for Jim, and I don't know why I continue to like Jim Sunto, but I do like
I
and
like
respect.
Jim, but I think he'll lose a lot of power now
But
that he's
this-
sold out.
Yeah, he sold out.
Got to
I
set
hate to see it.
Brass
but
balls.
I can't blame him. Can't blame him.
He's become a puppet, I feel like. And
He
that's-
has
the
already or
cult.
will.
this
I just
move
didn't-
makes him a puppet.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't like how I don't know, how Art swayed him and just like talked him into it and just like, I don't know, using the religion as part of it and just like, that easy?
I think he was down.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like Jim, like, yeah, he's down for the cause. That's the other thing is like, he's just kind of, he was into it. So that was even more disappointing.
I liked it.
And on the other side of that, you can also see how corruption is seeped into the organization as well, from Gasson suddenly having influence, a crew suddenly having influence over a Merc organization.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chapter 34, Unreasonable. The 20th year, second month. We open with a party to celebrate Rue going to college, which is interrupted with news that Nico is joining the Danlu Solutions International, aka GSI, the private military organization that Jim Sunto started up. We just talked about it. Every member of the Tall family is outraged, but Wen and Hilo take it especially poorly. After Nico leaves, despite Hilo's promise to cut him off, Hilo storms GSI's compound and confronts Jim Sunto, who refuses to give in to his demands to cancel Nico's contract. Just an emotional chapter here. Starting
this
off,
was just some raw family stuff.
yeah. And it starts off on such a positive note. We get Hilo, just like a genuinely proud father to Rue. And his love for Rue is just so evident and heartwarming. He encourages him, to do whatever he wants, even though Hilo has his private reservations that it's not necessarily practical. And there's like a very cute, very fun bit with Danny Sinjo, movie star Good Looks, and saying like, you look just like your mother, even though it's like a clone of his father.
Mhm.
And that's a fun joke because Wen loves movie stars.
True.
And the come on, da, like it's so like it starts off and you're just like, oh, this is just cute and fun.
Nice
Nico-
to see Rue getting a little bit of
shine,
spotlight.
cute dog, gets all his favorite foods, just a nice graduation party. Nico, I felt like, kind of an idiot here for not just lying or playing it off and just being like, when they're talking about him going to college, being like, I think you're the only college kid in the family, Rue. It's like, my dude,
Yeah.
be better. Have some decorum.
Yeah, timing. Yeah, a little tact here. Just bad. And he's like, I didn't want to say it.
It's like, but motherfucker, you did.
I think you did. Yeah.
We learn he has not been promoted with the rest of his, I mean, maybe not the rest of his class, but like the upper echelon of his class. He's not a fist, which everyone kind of expected, just based on, how it would work if he was applying himself.
Mhm.
And he didn't deserve to be promoted. So
Right.
Yeah.
There's no nepotism.
Made me think pretty
Yeah.
highly of Lote.
Yeah,
Like
that's
brand
for
new,
sure.
newly minted horn, basically not promoting his boss's kid, and everyone
Didn't deserve
everyone
it.
thinks it's the right call too. So we get the Wen and Hilo supportive of Nito despite his struggles in the clan. Hilo's like, look at Lote. He struggled at first. Now he's the fucking horn. Wen is like, if you want to earn more Jade, you don't have to go to college right away. We can put it off. And Hilo is initially annoyed, but then he pivots. He's gotten better at reining his anger. He's like, hey, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Bombshell from Nico. He's taken a job outside of the clan. And still, Hilo and Wen are pretty chill about this, relatively. Hilo's mostly seems mad that the right protocols weren't followed. Thinks his kid's just kind of acting out, lashing out a little bit. But he's like, that's fine. We'll get through it. And did that reaction surprise you at all?
At first, yeah, I don't think it surprised me like the way that Hilo took it because it just seemed it was so out of left field.
Mhm.
Like I was not ready for it either. So you kind of just like first initial reaction is just like think through this,
Mhm.
and yeah, but then when he does actually freak out, you're like, yeah, this is what I expected.
Yeah. And that's after the atomic bombshell that,
Mhm.
he hasn't taken any random job. He's not going to go to law school. He's not going to be a movie star. He is joining GSI. which you gotta imagine Hilo's opinions on have not been hidden from Nico.
Yeah, it's so stupid of Nico. He's like purposefully trying to piss Hilo off by doing that.
Yeah, this felt.
There's other ways to not work for the clan.
And for him to be so incredulous about, like, why don't you get this? You know, look, I just want to do it. I want to see the world. I don't know. That's where I was just like, come on, man. What do you expect? I know
It is
you're
a
a kid,
petulant
but-
19-year-old kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
And he could have,
Very
like,
much so.
why not work for the weatherman's office and travel to all their little satellite offices all over the world?
Right.
There's other ways he could have done it. Yeah, I do. I think that you guys hitting on it. He is lashing out here.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't think so, but it's definitely a layer of it.
I think there's something to be said also about the, like, not only lashing out, but finding a path that isn't connected to the clan in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't connected to his family in any way. And I mean, this is certainly a viable option with his skill set.
Mm-hmm. And he even says, I think, he's like, all I'm qualified for is this. All I've been raised in is this. I don't know, like, why are we so certain that this is right? My parents were killed because of this way. Like, let me see what it means to be green in this other way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the first time we ever hear him talk about his mom
Yeah.
being killed as, like, affecting him at all.
Right.
I think up until this point, I'm gonna just voice my opinion as in the defense of Nico. Up until this point, he's been kind of like rolling along with Hilo's punches forever, right? As you might with a father figure as a dad, and like not realizing until you kind of come to terms with, especially feeling like you don't have a path forward or like there's nothing there. Not to say that this was handled well at all, but I feel like this is the moment in which all of those things kind of finally come to roost, and it feels like, well, I've already opened up the valve this much. I'm just going to pour it all out there. And that's definitely what he's doing. He's totally trauma dumping all of it. But I can't say that it doesn't line up with who he is, and I also can't say that I don't see this as Lon's kid, pure and simple. Like, Lon didn't want to be the pillar even when he was forced to make that decision, and in a different life, I think Lon and Nico would share that similarity and more of a Simba Mufasa relationship of like, it's a burden, not, all this land is yours, but it's a burden.
Yeah.
Everything the light touches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad for Nico, but he's also like literally making this as bad as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's so many other
It's worst case.
choices.
That is the frustrating part of it is like he's making it so much
And
worse
he's also-
than it needs to be.
He's basically joining the mountain. I mean,
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, even worse, kind of.
yeah.
And he's 22, right? Like, he's not a teenager. He's an
Yeah.
adult. And he's
Right.
raised as heir. Like, he's an adult. He's the oldest child. And sure, he was spoiled, but like, he was raised knowing he'd have responsibility. So like, in theory, he has some of that, I get 22 is young, all that stuff, but he's not like, you got to grow up a little. Like, you're an adult, have some self-awareness.
This is
So
his
grow
growing up,
up
though,
now.
I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone can talk about this next chapter, but I think like Andon has the right of the situation on like how it probably should be handled. But I don't know. I don't think that gives Nico a free pass here.
Mm-hmm.
This is why kids shouldn't inherit the kingdom.
Yeah.
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 Hereditary.
In general.
Monarchy.
Inheritances.
Yeah.
This is why the democracy works, because
The
you
noble
raise
lie.
some pretty shitty princelings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Great point across the noble line otherwise. And yeah, Nico invoking his parents here too, I think is especially powerful.
Mhm.
Like, obviously, yes, it's the first that we've heard of it from him, but it just feels it to me, it gut punched quite a bit because it finally feels like it's comeuppance for what Hilo did.
Yeah. And Hilo, that's the
In
first time
his face.
Hilo's reacted to it.
At all.
Yeah. Despite the murder of the mother, it was still hard from Hilo's point of view to like see him gutted by this.
Mhm.
But that brings us to the storming of the compound, which is just pretty sick, all in all.
This was awesome.
There's a
It's a
cool
very Hilo thing to do.
description. tall Hilo Shudan, flanked by 4 of his Greenbone warriors, strode through the breached fence and advanced toward the building with the heedless implacability of a demon.
Nice. So good.
And it's like, Sunto's like, he had never really believed Hilo's rep, and he's like, I think those stories were fucking true.
That was great.
Hilo and Jim discuss the Nico situation, and they both trying to just piss each other off more. Hilo,
I couldn't believe how much Jim held his ground here.
yeah,
Yeah, good job, Jim.
and it's really, we see Hilo time and again being so adept at reading men and, you know, his adversaries, and seeing, like, knowing how to handle them in a respectful-ish way to get what he wants. And he just over and over again miscalculates with Jim with
Can't do it
all
with
the
Jim. Yeah.
what is the fucking phrase?
Jim's not in the wrong either. Like, this is really not his problem.
Right.
This is a kid. This is a father-son problem.
But just like
Right.
the being like calling him thin-blooded all the time, hammering him on the Espenian heritage.
Like bullying him?
Yeah, like he's trying to neg him, I guess, and it just doesn't hit and just makes him mad. And he's like, "Fuck you! I'm just as green as you."
Yeah.
And he should be like, dude, you would have died in that bombing if it weren't for me.
He doesn't.
You're welcome. I taught you shit.
Yeah, I don't. I feel
Yeah,
like
he's
that'd
the
be a
one
reach.
guy that Hilo really can't figure out.
Yeah, and that inability to come to terms with him forces him to leave without the resolution he wants.
Which is just wild. I was just thinking about Hilo like walking away, like seething, and like
Not killing
His-
everybody there.
yeah,
Yeah.
his like fists and stuff, just like, oh god.
Yeah,
Fonda Lee does such a good job with title and chapter names. In particular, I love Unreasonable. I think most of them this week, because it is both the reasonability of Nico, as well as Hilo in this moment. And they kind of mirror each other in different ways, and the way that that's used to show how the Greenbones are this way.
totally
It's great.
reasonable to bribe and threaten a foreign company. I don't know what you're talking about.
Super reasonable, barely an inconvenience.
Exactly.
The only other thing that I wanted to bring up inside of this chapter is we do get a flash of adult Jaya for the first time, and kind of getting to see her at the table playing peacekeeper between, you know, brother and dad, and trying her best to kind of be in that middle, despite notably being a little bit more fierce and rageful. She tries to kind of play down to that, which is a little bit of a different change for her, apparently.
Yeah,
Any
she
thoughts on
seems
Jaya?
like a little unserious, maybe, but I don't know.
She seemed like a skater kid hanging out with
Yeah.
her friends.
Yeah. She had skateboards.
She's like-
Skateboards were clearly in the 80s now.
She's like punk.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we get into our final chapter of the week, chapter 35, Those with a Choice. We open the chapter with Andon returning home from a trip to Espenia and into the loving embrace of his lover, Jirhu. After sex, they have a conversation about New Year's, and Jirhu says he doesn't want to owe the clan anything, and as such won't be attending an end inside. Before the conversation goes further, Nico arrives at the door, asking for a place to stay. The next day, Andon confronts Hilo with a choice and an ultimatum. So I love just starting off in the plane, Corey and Anding being so civil. It's actually pretty excellent. I mean, we kind of expected this. They're adults at this point. But considering where we came from in the last book to this point, it's been a decade. It's nice to see that kind of have rounded out at this juncture.
Definitely.
I agree. And
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, Corey, awkward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They also bring up Resville again in this sort of conversation about the fact that Corey, of whom we know not to be a very violent person, suggests that the death of John Remy might be the best path.
Agreed, my dude.
This
Yep.
time.
Totally.
No,
Totally agree.
no, we're on a time crunch, but I have a question about Andon and his boyfriend.
Mhm.
Does anyone else think Andon might be way too uncultured for Jiru?
Yeah.
Outclassed? Yeah.
I think
think-
that Jirhu is not intending Andon to be a long-term relationship.
I think they're just from different sides of the track.
Well, I thought that I agree with PJ, but I thought it's weird that they're moving in together.
Hmm.
I was like, 10 months together or something like that.
They're older though, so
Well, and just like PJ said, I just didn't think that. This doesn't seem like that
they've been
serious.
together long enough,
Yeah.
and things seem like they're serious enough where going to the Pillar's house isn't a like
Right.
token showing of
Right.
anybody. Like that's a relationship.
But it's that other side of it, I think, that really kind of drives it home, which is like he really doesn't want any connection to the clan. And as such, is probably why he thought that it was okay to date Andon to begin with, because he is so distant from the clan. But it's become clear as they've gotten closer and closer that there's more intimate ties there than he thought. I want to swing a home run bat for Fonda for writing a homosexual sex scene. They're rare. They're, I mean,
and like
seldomly included and
in depth.
That was a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's the first in-depth one I've
Literally.
ever read.
Same. That is literally, it was like consume the depth of him or something like that in the text. But that was great. Yeah.
I don't read a lot of books with sexual.
sex scene.
Yeah, I didn't read a lot of books with like explicit sex scenes in general, and I thought it was well done.
Yeah.
It was a first for me in everything that I've read, and I've read a shit ton of books. So pumped there
Humble brag.
for Fonda.
I've read so many books. Way more
I've read
books
so
than
many books,
PJ.
and only one of them have gay things in it. Just kidding. All right. So, any other notes on the relationship between the two?
Cute.
I was hopeful about it, and I feel like it's a good relationship, and now I feel like it's not going to work out,
because of the
and I'm sad.
invite to the party.
Yeah.
I think though it's good for Andon to, like, he clearly didn't think about it from Jirhu's perspective.
Oh, in the argument, I was definitely like, Andon, you got to slow down a little bit, like in your head, because you're like going way too fast here.
I mean, the Abuke are like a racially oppressed
Right.
people who, as Jirhu said, they're all going to be the waiters and maids there. So he didn't want to look like,
I'm super glad you brought that
a
up.
charity case.
Arm
That's
candy.
just like
Yeah.
such a fascinating part of this world that is just so part of the world that it's barely touched on. But like the
Right.
indigenous people who are actually indigenous to Tayton, who the Tetanese are so fucking proud about, their Jade resistance and all that, are a second-class citizen group. It's wild.
When their resistance and their all of it comes from them to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
But historically, not that wild.
right. Right.
Right.
It makes
Right.
total sense and it makes the world so real, but it's just like, I don't know, so well done.
So Nico showing up at his uncle's place to crash leads to a conversation that is a clash of personalities the very next day between Andon and Hilo, of course. The reality of Nico's upbringing comes to light as Andon releases a salvo of truths of how he's felt over the years in the way that he was treated by his family and by Hilo, finally kind of letting loose some of that simmering rage that we felt like it never came out from Jade War. What'd you make of this big dramatic moment between the two?
Loved it. I thought this was just really great, and I'm glad that Andon got a chance to like express all of those feelings that he grew up with, and it helps me understand Nico better as a character when I can just like kind of compare him to Andon, and I know his experience so well and have empathized with him throughout that time, even though I gave him a lot of shit about being a whiny baby. I think that I'm glad he got to say all this stuff, and I'm glad that he put it to Hilo like that, because at the end of the day, it's like you don't want to lose like this your son / nephew, or like, make them feel like they're excommunicated from the family. Like, that's not going to make you feel any better. So,
And yeah, Andon went through a very similar argument
right,
and excising.
yeah,
And then
it-
just Hilo came to terms with it and didn't realize
Right.
the damage that he'd done. It's been a decade.
yeah. So I like that he's able to show Hilo that, and then give him kind of a second chance to do it better.
Yeah. And he gives him that chance. I think that, I love Hilo, love him to death, love the character. I always question in this moment, as far as I've read this book, of whether or not he really deserves the honesty that Andon gives him in the moment. because I don't know that he's done a whole lot for Andon to have earned that. Andon has done way more for him, as Andon rightfully points out, having bent over backwards to save his life in the beginning of Jade City or in the end of Jade City, to then set up all of these different operations over in Hispania based on his connections and relationships, to then building out, without actually being like a full-fledged member of the clan, this relationship that could potentially yield legal Jade overseas. Is just, it's a mess, and Hilo has just benefited and hasn't really taken the time to acknowledge what Andon lost to sacrifice to win his trust back.
But Nico maybe deserves Andon telling Hilo the truth. Like, Hilo might not deserve to hear the truth.
Yeah, Nico deserves the chance.
But Nico can't really stand up for himself because he's too thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Hilo doesn't have any information to act on to change because he doesn't realize what he's done. He doesn't realize the impact. So finally, we're left with the choice. Apologize to your son, treat him like his father would have, let the gods recognize him, of course, and let him rebel. You know, he needs it, do that, or lose Andon. Those are your options. And with it, everything that Andon has brought to the table and brings to the table.
I mean, lose both, really.
Yes, right.
And
good point.
Hilo, I don't think Hilo's truly thought that out. That this is going to lose him a son.
I do want to say, though, that I thought it was a little overstepping for Andon to be like, I'm leaving too. Because, like, Nico is making a really shitty choice that's going to hurt the clan.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he could have been like, this is what you should do. Like, let your son rebel or whatever. Don't kick him out. But I don't know.
But the only way to add severity was to add a threat, because that's what Hilo responds to. I totally understand, and I'm with you. But
yeah. Because like, where does that leave Andon when Hilo doesn't bring his son back in?
I think this is a gamble on Andon's point that Hilo's going to cave to this threat. I don't think Andon truly thinks Hilo is going to let him leave. I think Andon's calculating it.
But maybe Andon is ready to throw it all away so that he can run away with Jirhu.
His empire of dirt.
Right.
This is something.
He's got ample reasons.
This is a point specifically where I think more time and fewer time jumps would have done us well. And seeing a relationship between Nico and Andon blossom a little bit more, and like let them sort of not commiserate, but bond over their shared feelings and experiences in their non-traditional family upbringing. Like, I think that would have made this scene a lot more powerful if we had seen them bond more in Nico's upbringing.
I agree. I just think we just needed like one or two more Nico chapters somewhere in the last 10 years. Like one maybe 10 years ago and one 5 years ago or whatever. Just like helping us along the path here to get where we are, because it's just...
He grew up so fast.
Yeah, he just grew up so darn fast.
I definitely understand and empathize and sympathize with that position. I think that I agree with you that we could lay it out. But I think that Thomas did hint at something, at the very least, that I think sets up kind of what your expectations are to some degree, which is there's only one more interlude and we've got 4 weeks left, right? So there's not a whole lot more time jumping to be had in some ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot more space to do a whole lot of time jumping. You know?
Right.
No new religions.
Not a third religion. Yeah.
Until we drop the atomic pylon cult.
Yes, the atomic pylon cult. Coming to you soon.
That I will join.
High-key obsessed with us. Yeah. All right. Final question, of course, that we always concern ourselves with is who won the week?
Can I tell you guys
Who's
something?
Your winner?
This always catches me off guard, and I don't know why.
Jim Santo.
You did pretty good.
I mean, he got bought out
But
hundreds of millions of dollars. I've thought the years.
and
Rich.
in Jir who had sex. Normally, if you get fucked, you win.
He got Call Hilo's son to join his company, and he stood up to Hilo and said, like,
And
And
one.
didn't die.
motherfucker, do it.
Get the fuck off
pretty
my
good.
property.
That's pretty good.
It's
pretty
That's
good.
pretty good.
Anytime you can say
Um,
that
But he's in
in
a creepy cult.
earnestness,
He is a weird cult guy.
yeah.
But I don't know who else is winning this week.
Art Wiles is pretty good. You know, he's making moves.
Art Wiles, yeah.
Got a hot mistress who is not
Who's
just hot,
possibly
but
an
great at
assassin.
sets. God bless.
Yeah.
Hey, Rue's going to college.
Rue's going to college.
Yeah.
What's his face? There's someone else that did good. Andon
Low-
did good.
And
Low,
did
low
well.
one.
Low
Yeah.
became
And
a
it
horn.
did well.
Became horn, yeah.
Low's
and-
horn.
Andon
Yeah.
is in a healthy relationship, a lot of communication, a lot of sets.
Stood up to his uncle.
Stood up to
Cousin.
his cousin brother, and in like just a very smart way, and showed a lot of growth, revealing his own pain to Hilo.
Yeah, but I think Jim takes the laurel.
Wow, a lot of bleed over this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was of the opinion my winners of the week were a combination or between Andon and Jim Sunto. I think that those are really the sort of meshing options. So
I think we won the week.
I think I'm on Ben's train with Jim though. I think I'm fully in that.
I totally agree as well.
Agreed.
Cool. I think we won the week because we got to hang out, discuss this lovely book series, have a grand old time,
And
And
doing
did it in record
in
time.
record time.
Good
Look
job.
at us. Next week is our 6th episode. I did it. Tackling episodes 36 through 45.
Great job.
Thank you. That's
Good
that
work,
is.
good
I won
work.
the week just now.
You did. You made us all proud. 36 through 45. Super excited. So that's where we'll leave you for this week. There's only 4 more left.
Only 4 more left. Thank you, motherfuckers, Tim and Andrew,
Love you.
for doing amazing stuff and like keeping our show existing. And like we truly wouldn't be a thing without you. We would sound bad. You couldn't find our websites or show notes or anything, and you truly wouldn't be able to listen to us. So you two, like, you the real MVPs. Check out the show notes, like I just mentioned, where you can find links to our schedule, our Patreon, our previous episodes, our websites, our social media accounts, all kinds of cool stuff. I don't know, random pictures of me as a child. That's probably not on there, I don't think, but I looked at one earlier today and I was pretty cute. I don't
Maybe
know.
we'll put that on Instagram.
Were you
Yeah.
a giant child?
I was
Use a regular
Average,
size
I don't know.
child. Find a new slant.
There was a period of time where I was just as tall as PJ,
that's true.
Aw.
and that will never happen again.
Yeah, he hasn't grown since then.
Unless
I
you get
have to
those new Gen Z Spice Girl shoes.
That was a
I wanna-
oxymoron
I wanna-
of a statement, I feel like.
I wanna.
Gen Z Spice Girl.
Everything's coming back.
Oh, it is
I have a
like
theory
90s
on that.
again, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So like when we were growing up, fucking Shutter Shade came back, right? And all the 80s stuff because our
True.
parents were in high school in the 80s. And then now
Oh,
all their
shit,
kids are
you're
in high
right.
school in the 90s, 2000s. So they're watching what their parents were fucking into. And so they're watching like Mean Girls and all that bullshit. And now they're emulating that style.
That's why Machine Gun Kelly's
Fuck
pop punk
Machine
records are
Gun
popular. It all makes sense. It all
Get him
makes
out of
sense.
here. Delete that. No free ads for him ever.
So don't forget to review 5 stars only. Rate and review. If you don't give us 5 stars only, we'll brand your face,
Mm.
but
With the Atomic Pylon
God.
Media.
Hell yeah.
with the logo.
Yeah.
And make you listen to Machine Gun Kelly.
those are the threats.
While you're getting branded.
Then you
That's-
can start
that's
your
it.
little cult of 1-star reviewers, and then we'll have to wipe you out. Sorry.
Untruth seekers.
Yeah.
You told.
5-starless
Oh my
future.
5-starless future. Yeah.
We're on fire.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Well, we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for listening. See you then.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.